So I'm Michael Office. I'm the VP of Product Management and Product Marketing for accountants and bookkeepers. So basically my job is to define the product strategy for Sage for accountants and bookkeepers, flow that through to the engineering teams in terms of what we should build, and then take it to market, price it, market it, message it, and be at great events like this to not only launch what we've done, but also find out about what we should do next. So in our research, we found that 83% of practices believe that clients now demanded more of them. What's driving that is, to be completely blunt and open and honest about it, is the technology that we use in our personal lives. So we're used to things being more real time, we're used to things being instant, we're also used to getting more value out of the things that we use day to day. Typically it's about getting more value for the same price or less that we paid before. That's kind of where the demand comes from. And we're translating that now into our professional lives. So as a small business owner, when I'm working with my accountant, I'm expecting to get a lot more value than what I would have done before, either at the same price, or I want to get what I got before at a lower price. And I want it to be real time, and I want it to be instant. And I've got a very low tolerance for things that I perceive or see as being kind of old-fashioned, things like paper-based, putting things in the post, all the things in our daily lives that we did maybe 15 years ago, we don't do anymore. The last time that we rang a landline from a landline phone, the last time we posted something, all of those things. And that's what's driving these changing client demands. So the Practice of Now report, it was really interesting. It found that a big proportion of accountants thought that competition was rising in the industry, but at the same time, many of them said that profits were increasing. And there's really two reasons for that. And this is what we hear from, in the UK, for example, we speak to 1,000 accountants face-to-face every month, another 9,000 we talk to over the phone. So we know what they think and feel and can bring these stats to life. And what we heard is two straightforward things. As clients are becoming more demanding, accountants are starting to take advantage of that opportunity, and they're just sharing the knowledge that they've got, and they're charging more for that. The second thing that's happening is clients are outsourcing more to their accountants. So in the past, when you got to about £10 million turnover, you probably employed your own accountant, because you had a very loose relationship with the accountant you were working with. You needed more insight. You needed a kind of finance person you could go and get some real understanding of your business from. But now that more accountants are providing that service, you don't need to get that in-house accountant. And as complexity in legislation grows, like making tax digital and changes in accounting terminology, but also how we account revenue, those things are headaches small businesses just don't need. So people are outsourcing more, there's more demand. Serving more clients in the market means you're going to drive efficiencies faster, therefore profits rise. So that's really what's happening. Now, for profits to rise even more, and for competition to which I think is healthy, but not get too much out of control, it's all about unlocking efficiencies and getting a real-time relationship with clients. That's how practices can stay ahead of those curves, grow profits, and be competitive. So in order to react to changing client demands, accountants have really three options. The first option is that they can take on more people, so they can spend more time with clients. What that's going to do is probably lower their profit margin, and that might even force them out of business. So whilst that's an option, it's probably not a viable option for most practices. The second thing is do nothing. But by doing nothing, you're not going to stay with the times, you're not going to be able to serve your clients in the way that you expect to, and whilst you might maintain the clients that you've got, you're probably not going to get a lot of new ones, and there's only one outcome at the end of that journey. So the third thing, and the thing that I would recommend accountants do, is 65% of accountants' time is spent on manual data entry, on admin, and basically non-value-added activities. Now, a lot of people will say, let's get rid of all of that, and it's probably impossible. There's always going to be some element of downtime in the way that you work. But if you imagine if you saved a third of that and reinvested that into providing more forward-looking advice to clients, not only can you maintain your business today, but serve the extra demands, you can also start adding even more value and charge more for that. So many clients and accountants that I speak to, the ones that are really taking advantage of this, they're growing their fees, they're growing their profit margins, because there's a lot of value in the advice that's locked in an accountant's head that they can give to their clients. And having a real-time relationship and more time, you can put those two things together to deliver much better advice and forward-looking things, services for a client. So there's a big boom in artificial intelligence in the profession at the moment, and I think the practice and our research said 2/3 would be willing to embrace it. Got to be really careful about artificial intelligence in terms of what do accountants really mean when they answer that question. They want something that just works, but they want something that they're in control of. So they're not expecting or wanting artificial intelligence to replace them. And there's a real fear in the industry right now about, are these things going to replace the role of an accountant? And the answer is, it never can do. And also, why would we want that? Actually, what this is about is where there's mundane tasks, where there's things that can be done faster by artificial intelligence, accountants are completely up for that. And it's about 2/3 that I talk to, when they really understand what it can do, they're really up for that. And they see how that can really reduce down the 65% of time that's spent on accountants time, that's wasted on on admin, and also manual data entry. So first and foremost, in order for AI to work, you need to be using technology that's at least connected to the cloud. So we have a big mantra at Sage of, you don't need to rip out your entire system and replace it with a new one and get all of your clients and staff to work in a different way in order to be ready for the future. That's not our message. What we've got is some choice around whether you completely go to the cloud native applications, or continue what you're using today but get them cloud connected. You need to be on that technology to unlock the benefits of AI. And we're working on some really exciting things with AI right now. We're seeing a lot of the practical things that accountants do, we can speed up whilst keep them in control, but we can speed up and automate through this machine learning and artificial intelligence. But to unlock those things, you must be starting to take a foothold into adopting cloud technology. It's the most important part of the journey. You can do that right now. The second thing I would recommend is start reading up and seeing what's going on in the industry around it. Understand how far you would want to go, and that will help you make choices when more solutions come to the market. And the final thing I'd say is there's very few AI solutions out there. There's a lot of talk and there's a lot of promises, but there's very few actual solutions out there at the moment. We've actually held back quite a lot of getting things out because we want to get it right. We want to be absolutely sure that the accountants we're working with to build it, it's making a difference to them. And I think a lot of other vendors are in the same position. So doing some research is important. Well, the practices who are yet to make the jump to the cloud, there's actually more of them than you would actually assume. So right now in the UK, Making Tax Digital comes in for VAT businesses in just under 12 months' time. In fact, as we shoot this video, it's 219 working days until that change comes in. 8 out of 10 accountants don't have a robust enough plan for Making Tax Digital. Of that 8 out of 10, 65% don't even have a plan. So if 80% of practices in the UK have not got a strong enough plan for Making Tax Digital, that means they have not yet taken the right step into the cloud. The problem with some of these statistics is, even if I've taken one client out of 100 to the cloud, then I've moved? Well, no. You've taken a client and they're in the cloud and you've ticked the box statistically, but the 99 others and all of your practice workflow, you're no closer to getting ready than you would be if half your practice is in the cloud. So there's a little bit of understanding needed behind these figures, which we're able to provide because of how many accountants we talk to all of the time. But actually, it's quite worrying how many yet haven't got a plan for Making Tax Digital, and we've got to do much more around that. And really, Sage is trying to drive that message out to the market as much as possible. And putting a plan together is really easy, and we do it for free. And we have the biggest team in the UK to do that, and that's why we're at Accountex today. But literally, still a big swathe of the population of accountants needs to get more serious about Making Tax Digital for sure. So in the practice and our research, we found that a high proportion of accountants are less positive about the prospects going forward than they were compared to a few years ago. And the simple reason for that is there's a lot of fear and confusion in the industry right now, predominantly because of the upcoming Making Tax Digital change. So a lot of the people who serve the industries, the vendors, the partners, the advisors to accountants, the software vendors like ourselves, there's a lot of people driving this belief that you must completely rip out your entire system, change your entire workflow across all of your colleagues and every single one of your clients in order to be ready for Making Tax Digital, to be relevant in the future, and to be competitive. And quite frankly, that's not right, because we are able, and you are able as an accountant or bookkeeper in the UK, you're able to adopt new ways of working and unlock the power of the cloud and be ready for Making Tax Digital. But at the same time, you don't need to change all your systems and you don't need to have all of that disruption. because you work in clients in different ways. You want to use a different mix of different systems, whether it's desktop apps and cloud apps. And what accounts bookkeepers need is a partner they can trust, that gives them that choice, that isn't going to force this cliff edge moment where it's seen as a lever to drive everyone to one way of working. And that's not how the profession's going to go in my view. So that is driven by the fear that's in the market, and vendors like Sage are trying to put forward a more pragmatic and more honest argument about where things are at and offer a different way forward. And I think we've done that today here at Accountex.